Welcome to the Philip Wiley Show. Take a look behind the curtain of professional hacking and hear compelling discussions with guests from diverse backgrounds who share a common curiosity and passion for challenges and their job. And now, here's your host, offensive security professional, educator, mentor, and author, Philip Wiley.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Philip Wiley Show. Today I'm happy to be joined by Kevin Johnson. So I first found out about Kevin taking the SANS course, the SANS Web App Pen Testing course back in 2014, and one of his projects, Samurai WTF, which we'll get into a little bit here in a little bit. But that's kind of how I knew about Kevin. And recently on Twitter, he was sharing about wanting to be on a podcast to share about open source and OWASP. And actually, Tom, his co-host of his podcast, had recommended Kevin be on my show. And I just kind of forgot about it when I saw the tweet. I thought, yeah, I need to get Kevin on the show. So I reached out to Kevin, and fortunately he made time for me. So thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. I like Tom told me I should talk to you, but I forgot about Kevin because Kevin's so forgettable. I'm cool with that.
It's not really that. I get some of the best ideas for guests, and I think about it and I forget. And one of the things I started doing on Twitter is I actually started a list, and it's a private list of people to consider for podcasts. That way I can go back and look. And I'll talk to people at conferences. Yeah, I need to get you on my show. And times past, it's just like I had a recent recording with Katie Paxton Fear, Insider PhD. She's really big in the bug bounty community. I talked to her at Black Hat USA or Black Hat Europe in London last December, and I finally got it. I finally remembered it and finally got around to getting her scheduled, and I recorded her last week. So
yeah, that's awesome. It's one of those things I find when you get involved in this field, there's so many things. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have shiny object syndrome, right? Like, oh my God, that looks awesome. I need to try that out. And it's the same thing with talking to people, right? I see somebody, I'm like, there are people I follow on Twitter that I think to myself, man, that person, they're a genius. I need to talk to them. I need to talk to them more. And then, but that's in that context, right? And then you shift context, and now you're working on a contract or a test or whatever, and you lose track. What I started doing, and I this works for me, and I'm weird, so I don't know that it's a good recommendation for anybody else. But I actually bought, and this is not sponsored, but I bought a Kindle Scribe. Okay. And it's the newer, it's a big Kindle, and you can write on it, right? And the reason it worked for me is because I can take a note whenever it pops into my head, and if I have my Kindle, I can do it. And which a lot of times I'm reviewing stuff or reading stuff on the Kindle, and so notating stuff that way. But it puts the notes onto my phone as well, because my phone has access to the same account, right? Mm-hmm. So now I used to carry, I don't know how old you are, but I'm old. And
I'm old.
yeah. Right. When I was a kid, do you remember I don't know if they still have them. They were spiral bound notebooks, but they were like that big, and you could carry them in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And every year, that was what the teacher wanted us to write our homework assignments in. Right. Like you were supposed to keep that. I used to carry one of those around for years because I would think of something and I got to write this down. I got to keep track of it. And then what made me stop doing it was I had broken like my 10th pen in my back pocket. And I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work. I got to stop doing
this. Yeah, that's a good idea with the Scribe. So yeah, I tried. What I used to kind of do is I use an iOS device. So used to with the notes in iOS, you could kind of link it to your Gmail notes. So I would just put stuff in there. So I go back and and view it on my screen to share it that way. But I don't know if you're this way or not too. But if you could just do nothing but do podcasts, you wouldn't have a hard time filling, the time with
Oh,
people to interview.
no, yeah, no. There's a ton of people and what I find is there's so many people that they're doing amazing things, and they don't even realize how amazing the thing they're doing is.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to like drag them into the limelight. Like, okay, you're doing this cool thing. Come over here. And but I found that, one of the things I found is that there's so many like scam emails like, hey, I want to co-blog post on your website thing, that it's hard. It's even harder to get in touch with people unless you have a contact in common or whatever, So yeah, my problem is nobody's paying me enough to just do all the cool things and talk to all the cool people that I want to. I keep having to go and do that, that day job thing. And I'd like to get to the point where I don't have to do that anymore, but I don't expect that to happen well ever.
Yeah, so, something you might check out that Daniel Meisler just recently put out. He did you see that on how he's kind of shifted from working for companies? It's pretty interesting he did that, because I was pretty impressed when I found out first of the year that he was full-time in business for himself. So that's someone living in the Bay Area, working for working for Robinhood. So he had to be making good money to quit all that and go into business for yourself. So that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's impressive anyways. Like he is just one of those good. He's just one of those good people that makes everybody around him better, right? I just every dealing I have with him is I'm made smarter, I'm made better. He's like I said, he's just a good person. At least that's my deal.
Yeah, super motivational. I've had texts for him before just saying, I just want to let you know you're awesome and all this, keep up what you're doing. And so just stuff like that out of the blue, which is pretty awesome. But for anyone listening that don't know of Daniel Meisler, his unsupervised learning blog and podcast is awesome. It's really kind of a good way to read some quick research or get access to some research of items you may not spend that much time on. And just like the stuff he's done with AI, he is doing stuff on AI before Chat GPT come along and made it more common.
Yeah, he's definitely a person to follow and see where his mind is going, and the tidbits he shares are it's awesome. There's a lot of good people like that. I mean, another person that just blows my mind constantly, Jason Haddix.
Oh yes,
right. Jason is incredible. He just shares everything he knows. Here's how I do this. Here's how I do that. Alyssa Miller, right?
Yeah,
she's incredible. I'm going to stop naming people, because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to name people, and then I'm going to forget to name people, and it's okay. I can't do that. But like I said, I'm old. I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing security. I've been doing IT for a while, and what amazes me is how much I have been able to accomplish because of the community we're able to build around ourselves. You know what I mean? Like that is, I am where I am today because other people showed me stuff or helped me or and I'm really happy to see, well, bluntly, I got involved professionally in IT in 1991.
Okay.
So we're looking at, 32 years that I've been doing this for a paycheck. And I'm thrilled to know that I think overall, I know there's problems. I know there's cruddy people. I think overall we're better off today because of the people that are pushing things forward than we were 30 years ago.
Yeah, one of the things, I don't know if you witnessed this or not, especially because I got my start in IT as a sysadmin, and I didn't get started till like 97. But one of the things I experienced, you had people back then that weren't going to share what they knew because it was their job security.
Yeah.
And I think it seemed like we had a lot more of that then than we do nowadays. People are more willing to share.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you were at, where you connected. So when I was, 91, I graduated high school, and I got a job like right away. I never went to college, so well, that's not true. I signed up for college. I went to a couple classes and dropped out for this job that I had, and what I found was, there were a ton of people that didn't want to share. But getting onto, and I'll show my age a little bit here, but getting onto bulletin board systems and, getting on to, I was dialing into BBSs for forever. And there was always people, what was it? FidoNet, and, which was a messaging system that crossed bulletin board systems. And, of course, UUNet with the internet. There were always people that you could find that were willing to help. Yes, the jerks were loud. The people who, I tell people, I just had this conversation yesterday. I was at a conference that I was speaking at, but we also had a booth, right? And I had some students walk up to me, and they were talking to me about, trying to learn stuff and trying to figure this stuff out. And one of them mentioned that they had reached out to like some famous person, right? And please hear the quotes and italics around famous, right? Because, just because you're a celebrity on Twitter doesn't make you a celebrity, but let's go with it, right? And they asked some questions about some stuff the person was claiming to have done. And hey, I was able to do this, this. And they asked some questions. And the person was like, no, figure it out yourself. I'm not sharing. I'm not doing this. And what I've realized, and this is what I told the person, is that the vast majority of the people, if not every person, but I don't like absolute statements, but if you ask somebody a question and their answer to you is go figure it out yourself, or go Google that, or go away and because this is my special knowledge, that is absolutely a sign that that person is a moron and doesn't actually know the things they say they do. They may know technology, they may know some aspect of something, but what I find is that it's the fear of ignorance, the fear of being found to be ignorant, that makes these people like clam up, like, no, I can't share this. And it's like, it's when people actually, because, bluntly, I don't think you actually know something until you teach somebody else that thing, right? Yeah. Because for you to be able to teach it to somebody, that's proof you actually know it. That's where, the number of times I'm in class, I'm talking to somebody, they ask a question, and like a light bulb lights up in my head, like, oh man, I never thought of that thing, right? Like I hadn't, like, I know this topic, and this person just taught me something new. Yeah, I think, but you're right. The people nowadays, for the most part, there's, like I said, there's crummy people out there. There's definitely, loud, obnoxious, I just want to destroy everything people, but there are good people out there that want to share, and that's important.
And I think there's a good lesson to be learned too, or shared from the point you mentioned, people saying, go Google this or Google that. There's times I've had people that I mentored or former students that would constantly be asking me questions about stuff that could be Googled. But for those that are helping people, you got to realize too, if you don't understand the terminology well enough, you understand the subject, you can Google all you want to, and it's going to be hit or miss if you find the information. So always, I would let them know, I don't know, but here are these, these are good searches I found on Google. This is good, legitimate information. Here, use this. And I had someone finally one day said, thank you for not telling me to Google it, when I ask you for information, because if someone legitimately didn't know it, and just kind of having empathy and patience with people is important.
Yeah. See, I don't have patience. I don't have empathy. I'm a really mean person, but I want to help. I want to help people. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, there are times where it's like, okay, here is, because I don't want to spoon feed you. I don't want to give you everything. I want you to learn how to learn. But I would like to believe that for the people we're dealing with, at the ages that we're dealing with people, I would like to believe they already know how to learn, right? Like, and if they don't, you're not going to teach them over Twitter. or Blue Sky or whatever you want to use it today, right? Yeah, I like that. The other problem with telling people to Google stuff is, not only you're absolutely correct that they don't have the basis to know what to look for, but the flip side of that is also bad. They don't have the foundation to know when what they found was wrong, right?
Mhm.
And so they look at stuff, and recently on Twitter there is this just jackhole scumbag idiot who's been sharing. At first it was funny. It was like, oh, it's the Tracer T guy grown up, and he's been targeting people like Track and Pacer and whatever who are just good people. And I've watched a couple of his videos, and I had to actually stop watching his videos because they were making me dumber. But his stuff, like if you read his stuff where he's describing things like, oh, now let's be very clear, he's a QAnon conspiracy theorist jackhole, right? But when he's releasing these videos about how he's trace routing servers and he's talking about stuff, the stuff he is saying, and please do not walk away from my statement and say, oh, Kevin believes that guy. The stuff that he is saying sounds technically correct enough that if you don't have the foundation to understand why it's wrong, you're bamboozled by the big words. And I use bamboozle on purpose there because it's a big word. And but if you don't have that foundation, so the answer of go Google that yourself, go figure it out yourself, it's just doomed to either mean the person is going to fail because they can't find the stuff, or worse, they're going to fail because they find stuff that is fundamentally flawed and wrong, yet they don't recognize it. And then when we look at them and say, well, that's stupid, how could you possibly think that? Well, of course they think it because you told them to go Google it.
Another comment to make on that guy that was being the jerk. One of the things I noticed he said, it was kind of, he's kind of putting people down because he doesn't want people to follow credible people, because then all of a sudden that blows his cover. Because I heard this guy was charging thousands of dollars for his courses or his mentoring or something, but he was putting down like Sam Bone. It's the teacher there at San Francisco City College, which is awesome. The dude teaches at DEF CON and some of these other conferences, and I've seen his stuff. He knows what he's doing, and he gives his content away for free, but he does have some paid courses and stuff, but he lets you take his stuff for free. And I'm thinking, no wonder he's putting this guy down, because he's got all this great content for free. So who would want to pay him thousands of dollars for what he's doing?
Stuff.
Yeah. So how did you get started in pen testing? How did you get into that?
Oh, I don't know. I woke up one day and I was a domain admin on a network I didn't own, and it was just weird. And honestly, it was. I made the comment today. I was talking to somebody this afternoon, and I made the comment that I am the epitome of privilege, right? I'm a straight white old guy, and we can throw fat and balding in as well if you want. And so I as a kid, computers fascinated me. Like I said, I graduated high school. I got a job in what we would call a startup today, right? And I was laughing at that term because every company starts up, right? Right? But back then, it was just a new business, right? That's what it was. And they hired me to run their network, run their bulletin board system. They had a BBS that was connected to the internet, and and write software. We had a contract to write this software that helped control the power grid, right? And so that was my job. I'm an 18-year-old kid, stupid, and I get this job, and that just, it became one after another. I was an admin, I was a developer, I was an admin, I was a developer, and then naturally, security became part of that. I don't think you can be a good admin or a good developer and not at least think about what security means, right? And so I got involved in some stuff like that. Some of the companies I was working at let me try some stuff out and do some things. And then I released some open source tools, BASE, the Basic Analysis and Security Engine, which was a web front end for Snort. I had forked a tool called Acid that had basically been abandoned, right? And back in, I want to say it was 2001, maybe a little bit later than that, maybe as late as 2004. The company I worked for, Blue Cross, sent me to a SANS event, and I took Mike Porter's class. And Mike Porter was teaching packet analysis and intrusion detection, and so I went and took the course. And in the course, they were actually one of the sections about intrusion detection. They were teaching BASE. So when Mike found out that I was in the class, he decides, hey, Kevin, why don't you teach that section? Like, instead of me teaching it, you're the author. Why don't you show us BASE, show us how it works, show, all this kind of stuff. So I did. And that was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Mike Porter is letting me do this. And I joked with him later, he got paid for the day and I did the work. But so that night he took a group of students out to dinner, and I was one of them. We went to a Brazilian steakhouse, which was amazing, delicious, and more steak than any human should consume at one sitting. But I'm willing to try again. And he actually said to me at dinner, "Okay, Kevin, I've seen BASE. We've been using it. You seem like a decent guy. What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I'm goofy, and I looked at him and I said, "I want to be you. I want to be a consultant. I want to, I've done some testing. I've done some of this. I've done analysis. I've done forensics. I've, just part of jobs, right?" And he said, "Okay," and gave me some advice. I don't know that his advice is valid outside of the scenario that we were in. His advice was to take the intrusion handling, the intrusion detection, and the forensic analyst certifications at SANS. So 504, 503, 508. And get those certs. And then you could, according to Mike, you could write your ticket anywhere. And I think what he meant was you could write your ticket to InGuardians, the company he owned, because much of InGuardians were SANS instructors. And so I'm like, okay. And so I took the cert for his course, and then I didn't have enough money to buy the other courses, because even back then, SANS courses were slightly expensive. We won't talk about how asininely ridiculous the cost is today, but I challenged the forensics cert, and I challenged the incident handling cert. So 508 and 504. Challenge meaning I took the test without taking the class. I passed both tests high enough that SANS asked me if I'd be willing to teach them. Started teaching the 504 class, and then interviewed at InGuardians and got a job. And that is literally how it happened. Like, boom, boom, boom. Now I'm a pen tester. And I worked at InGuardians for a number of years. And then 2010, so 13 years ago, started Secure Ideas. Left InGuardians for the bank and started the professionally evil organization we have today.
Very cool. And so through this, and I know you had taught for SANS for several years, but now you're doing your own thing with your company, Secure Ideas, along with the consulting, and you're also offering training.
Yeah, we do a lot of training. Most of we do, obviously, is pen testing and adversarial type stuff, advisory, consulting. But we do training. We work with Black Hills, John Strand's organization. Mm-hmm. He founded an organization called Anti-Siphon, and we're one of the collections of courses that are offered through Anti-Siphon publicly. And we do it pay what you can, mainly because for us, training is not a profit center. Don't get me wrong. I'm a greedy capitalist. All right. I'd like to be a bajillionaire, but we do training to share knowledge. We also do training because it shows our expertise, and people then come and buy services from us because well, hey, I took this course about web pen testing from Kevin. He seemed halfway decent. Let's hire him to do a pen test. So it is a form of marketing, but we offer it that way. We also do private courses. Companies can bring us in, and we do that. So we do a lot of training. All of our training is focused around some form of security, whether it's our CISSP mentorship, to our, the professional evil AppSec course or the professional evil network testing course, stuff like that. So
very cool. So yeah, we definitely can't leave, stop the show or end the show without talking about Samurai WTF. So if you want, that's kind of one of taking a SANS course and introduction was kind of how I found out about you myself.
Nice. Yeah, Samurai WTF. The WTF stands for Web Training Framework. We did not come up with the obscene version, of course. No, didn't come up with that first and then figure out how to make it work. Samurai WTF was a live environment. You would boot a CD, and it would be a Windows testing environment. It had Zap and Burp and DVWA and Matilda and all the different vulnerable apps and SQL Map and W3AF and everything. And over the years, it's grown and changed to its current version now, which is a Vagrant file, and it builds a live environment. Builds a virtual machine. And we're actually working on a brand new version. Jason Gillum, the co-lead on the project, he built this tool called Shogun, and it's about to be it's in GitHub, so it's already open source in there. It's just not an official release yet, right? And what it does is, instead of using virtualization, which we've been running into problems because of M1 and M2 Macs, and a lot of companies don't allow people to do virtualization, or their hardware isn't strong enough or whatever. What Shogun does is it spins up a lab environment using containers for all of the training targets. So you're able to say, Shogun, start this and this and this and this and this, and now let me practice. Let me learn this. Let me try this out. It's all focused on the idea of, let's provide as many different ways to get access to the tools and the training apps as possible, right? So Shogun and Katana's another tool installer that's part of Samurai. They're just focused on making it as easy as possible to get the person who wants to learn into an environment where they can, right? So, yeah, Samurai's been around for a while. Samurai is actually older than Secure Ideas. I built the first version of it back when I worked at InGuardians, because I was supposed to go to DEF CON and ended up not being able to go to DEF CON because of a client engagement. And then the client engagement got moved. So I was home by myself for the weekend. My family had gone away because I was going to be away. So they went, right? And what do you do on a weekend when you're by yourself? Build a Linux distribution. Why not? Yeah.
So one of the things I remember too is the PDF that came with that. That was like kind of a little course on how to use that little learning environment.
Yeah, that course was the course that Justin Searle and I used to teach at Black Hat, and it was all part of the course. Now that course is still in the repo, but now what we have is a few years ago we open sourced a 6-day course called the Professional Evil Web App Pen Testing 101 course, and that is 6 days of materials and exercises and stuff like that on web pen testing that I won't say was SANS Sec 542, but it might look familiar.
Oh, very cool. So I know you're wanting to discuss open source and OWASP. So
I think the big thing I want to talk about is the board, right? The board election. Yeah. So for the people who don't know, I mean, I'm actually surprised how many people don't know what OWASP is. Right. OWASP is an organization that's been around for 20-some years. It was founded on the idea of providing information on application security, tools, techniques. The OWASP Top 10 comes from that. Of course, that's the top 10 app vulnerabilities that people shorten to top 10. And there's been a bit of a shakeup at OWASP. There's been a lot of people complaining, and I think I don't want to disregard the majority of the complaints. I think that the complaints are focused on the wrong thing. There's been a lot of people that have been complaining. Matter of fact, 6 months ago, Mark Curfey and a number of other people released an open letter to OWASP saying, hey, you're failing at what you're supposed to do. And their focus was on funding projects. And don't get me wrong, I think that many projects need funding to accomplish. Open source, people think about open source as, it's volunteers and they just knock it together and do it. And anybody who has run an open source project or been involved in open source knows that it's a hell of a lot more work than that. And while I'm lucky, I have a company that pays me for a day job, which enables me to do the open source stuff that I do. Not everybody has that benefit. And so the open letter was focused on that. I think there's a bigger problem. And the bigger problem is, and I just throw it out here, OWASP, been around for 20-some years. Hundreds of thousands of people a day use the OWASP website. Organizations, PCI, NIST, CISA, CREST, whatever, they reference the OWASP standards as what we should be using and everything else like that, right? Okay, there's like 290 projects that are part of OWASP. I think there's 2,000 chapters around the world. I don't know the number of chapters off the top of my head, but there's tons of chapters around the world, right? Membership costs $50 a year. Let me ask you a question. With hundreds of thousands of people using the site every day, with chapters in every corner of the planet, and hundreds of projects that make up OWASP, how many paid members do you believe OWASP has?
I would say I would just guessing percentage wise, I would guess maybe 10% of the
10%
people that
of
use
what?
it. 10% of all the people using the OWASP resources are actually.
So if we said 500,000 people use it, just to make up a number, 50,000 members.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that sounds reasonable. Yeah. It's less than 6,000.
Oh, wow.
There are the last number I saw was 6,400 members, but there are a lot of members who get a complimentary membership. So even if we go with 6,500 people are paid members, that's the problem. We have a community that isn't a community. And so when we talk about things like, hey, the chapters, because the chapters have just as many problems as the projects, right? Mm-hmm. Chapters don't feel that OWASP is helping them out, sponsoring them, whatever. For us to fix those things, what we need to do is actually push OWASP forward in membership. And I don't mean that we need 20,000 people given $50 a year. What I think we need is we need to actually push corporate membership, which is a balancing act, right? Because you don't want OWASP to lose its independence. But I think that if we push corporate membership, if we push individual memberships to buy enabling benefits to the individual members, right? Provide benefits to the individual members, which will drive more membership, drive corporate membership. The minute you do that, the second thing you have to do is actually get good documentation of what is available to people. Just the other day, because I've been very vocal about this. I'm not a quiet person when I complain about things. And one of the board members actually asked me to meet and said, "Hey, can we talk about this? You're saying all these things. I want to talk to." And I'm a project lead. I am the vice chairman of the projects committee. I was a chapter lead for a number of years. I'm a lifetime member. I'm a corporate member. and I pay for membership for every single one of my employees. Okay. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to show you how connected I am to OWASP, right?
Yeah.
And do you know that I wasn't aware that projects and chapters could get free access to AWS services that OWASP covered the costs to?
Oh, wow.
Right. I have my staff. One of my staff members just signed up for OWASP. One of the benefits to being an OWASP member is you get an OWASP email address, except that process doesn't work and they don't know how to fix it. And so I think, to me, there's two things we need to fix. One, we need to fix membership, get members out there, get member benefits, everything else like that. And two, we need to actually document what the heck OWASP is, right? OWASP changed their name earlier this year. They were the Open Web Application Security Project. Earlier this year, they became the Open Worldwide Application Security Project. And I would bet you that the vast majority of people at OWASP don't know that, right? So because of that, what I'm doing is I'm running for the board. I've decided that I've been loud, I've complained, so I'm going to run for a board seat. And it looks like it needs it, considering the fact they just lost their second board member today. There's an argument over whether or not Glenn resigned or was removed. That's an argument with them. I'm not taking a side. They were calling for a no confidence vote. He resigned. They called for the vote anyways. I don't know how that works, right? Whether he quit first or they fired him first. It sounds like the you're fired. No, I quit. No, you're fired argument, right? But OWASP has lost two major flagship projects to OpenSSF. We need to fix this. Or
yeah, I saw
we're going to lose.
I saw one of a major project getting lost to that. I was really surprised.
Yeah, Zap left.
Yeah,
and SKF left. Two flagship projects. So the key thing is people need to vote, whether or not they vote for me or not. That's I'd love them to. I'm biased. I think I'm a good candidate. But to vote in the election, people have to be a member by September 30th. So they have to become a member to vote. If their membership is active by September 30th, they can vote in the election this year. And in my opinion, everybody should vote. I'm a huge believer in read what the candidates say they're doing, just read the plans, and then vote for the right candidate. That, I think, is the key thing to do. So I'd like it to be me, but that's just me. So cool. Thank you.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So we're getting down towards the end of the episode. Is there anything that you'd like to discuss that we haven't so far?
No, I think I'd love to. I will say this. I've said this before. I'll say it again. No matter what you're doing, no matter what you're involved in security-wise, if you've got a question, ask. Right? I'm on Twitter. I'm on Mastodon. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Slack, Discord, whatever. If you've got a question, ask. I will either be able to answer you or I will direct you to the person who can. Like I do that a lot of times. People will write me and say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I'll be like, you know what? I am not the person to show you that. Talk to this person. And yeah, ask. If I can help, I will.
Very cool. Thanks, and I appreciate you being my guest. It's good to actually get to speak with you. You're someone I've followed for many years, and
I'm so
and
sorry.
Cool well, my opinion, it was good. It was good. Okay. So thanks for all you've done.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, man. It was great talking to you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to The Philip Wiley Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, to learn more about Philip, go to thehackermaker.com and connect with him on LinkedIn and Twitter @Philip Wiley. Until next time.